Dental update?
Yeah, well, he went back to the dentist again today. This is becoming quite the issue, and really yesterday we had him in the lineup to start and put him into the DH role because it was bothering him. So went back to the dentist again today and had another procedure in there, dry socket or whatever they're calling it, but it's been a little bit of a problem. Hopefully with a full day off today we'll have him back in the lineup tomorrow.
Is he at the ballpark right now, or will he be?
He hasn't, not within the last 15 minutes or so. I think he was on his way.
So would you have him available tonight?
Potentially, yes.
It's going to be frustrating for him, for you, for everybody, just having to wait for it.
It is. I mean, he's a key guy in our lineup, obviously. Been the guy that sat in that 3-hole for some time now, and a guy that we rely on. So it is, but you know, he's a tough guy. Believe me, if there was any way he could be out there, he'd be out there. He's played in some pain this year, and a guy that likes to be out there for his club. So, you know, it's bothering him some if he can't get in the lineup.
Looks like AJ Griffin threw a bullpen today. That can come on pretty nice.
Yeah, threw all his pitches today. Probably throw another one on Sunday, then we'll see where we're at as far as maybe a rehab start or something along those lines.
About Seth Smith, he's going to go through BP, and where's he stand?
Yeah, today he'll take some BP, do some running on the bases. You know, if he does that for a couple days, then you know, maybe we look to get him out on a rehab assignment if all goes well here in the next day or two.
Just looking from above and down here, for a first game after a football game, actually the field looks pretty good, doesn't it?
I was shocked. I walked around and was expecting it to be much worse than that. Clay does an outstanding job, he and his group always, but this is probably as good as I've seen it after a football game. So there's a little, some spots in center field, which are always the case, where it gets a little bit trampled down over there, but again, they do a terrific job, and the field's in very good shape.
Is there anything else you do to combat kind of any odd aspects of the field, or is it just BP and that's it?
Well, I think you make sure you take some ground balls in the spots that are a little bit spotty. I think sometimes it tends to be a little bit quicker in the gaps, and the closer you get to the warning track, so you know the ball can pick up speed a little bit when normally it slows down. But Ty's really good about getting our guys out there and making sure they're aware of all the little intricacies of what's going on. And it's not his first time here, and he's dealt with it a lot, quite a bit. And guys like Coco and so forth have dealt with it as well, and probably use their expertise as well.
Cespedes hit a home run yesterday, but before that he had a few games, like 14 I think, without an extra base.
Right.
Do you see yesterday's performance like a sign that he's coming back to his normal swing? Maybe he was a little hurt maybe before?
I think he's had a little blister on his hand, but that he's been fighting through. But you know what? I always think he's going to hit a ball in the gap or out of the ballpark when he's up there. He's a threat regardless. You're always going to go through stretches through the course of the season where you're not swinging as well, or certainly not getting the results. I know it probably goes a long way confidence-wise for him, to get one in the air and hit one out of the ballpark. But for me, he's always a threat. We always feel good about him at the plate.
Wrist is 100% now?
Yeah, the wrist is good.
Any update on Brett Anderson?
Brett will be here tomorrow to throw a bullpen, and then we'll have to figure out where we are with that. No decisions there yet.
No decisions.
Right.
Bob, you have some young guys who were in Stockton not that long ago, Doolittle, Griffin, Straley. Can you talk about how quickly those guys have come up and the contributions they're making for you?
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing. I mean, we've gotten, it's well documented the contributions we've got from younger guys, but guys that were in A-ball, and certainly in Doolittle's case that came through all the classifications this year. It means the organization has a lot of faith in their younger players and aren't afraid to give them opportunities, and prominent opportunities here at the big leagues. And the way they perform, they deserve it. But those kind of quick rises like that are pretty amazing. I think it does happen in this organization, some for the reasons that we talked about. But I know back in the day when I played, it was very difficult to make those kind of jumps and get to the big leagues that quickly, but the talent level is obviously there, and they perform superbly.
Bob, in the past you've talked about your team playing up to the competition. When you go up against a team like the Indians that's shown some vulnerabilities lately, how do you want to see your team take advantage of that?
Well, I think you have to play everybody the same. Kansas City was a team that, record-wise wasn't as good as some of the teams we were playing recently, but beat us 2 out of 3, so Yeah, there are no easy teams in the American League. There really aren't. And you have to be on top of your game all the time, and then certain teams will match up better against you than other teams. And last time we were here earlier in the season, they took 2 out of 3 from us. They can do some things. I mean, they got some guys that can run. They got some guys that can hit for power. They got some guys in the bullpen that can shut you down. So it's a good team. You have to play well regardless. And I think we look at them the same as we would any other team that we played, whether it's the Yankees or Kansas City or anybody in between.
How are your young players dealing with kind of the ups and downs of a playoff race? I know a lot of them haven't been through something like this before.
Yeah, I think we're probably still a ways away from being, I think once you get into September and you can see that finish line, then you start really calling it a playoff race. But I think the fact that we are here in this position probably wasn't forecasted early in the year. So I know they're having a lot of fun with it. And I think that's what I like to see. It's not, okay, here's the pressure because of that. I think it's, for a younger group, we have to look at it as an opportunity to have some fun and just try to play each and every day and play it out and prepare to win that particular day.
How is Brandon Ainge's shoulder coming along, and do you expect him to come back in a minimum of 15 days?
I really don't know on that one. This was, I think, a big day for him. He can finally lift his arm all the way up over his shoulder level. So the last several days he was not able to. So hopefully that's, once you break through certain levels, maybe it speeds up the process. But that wasn't an easy injury he had. He kind of plays it off as, I just pop it back in and I'm ready to play. Where there's some difficulties with that. So we want to be careful too that put him in a position where it keeps popping in and out, or then something would have to happen. So we'll probably take it a little slower with him, but I really don't know as far as the 15-day period or not.
You got to make that throw from third base.
Right.
So,
right. And he really extends on his swing. So I mean, he's a guy that does hit for some power and hits for the power the other way, which means you're extending. It's part of his swing is all about his extension. So once he starts throwing and swinging the bat, then we'll have a better indication of how quick it'll be.
What's the most significant progress you see in Donaldson when you saw the beginning of the season and when you see him now?
Well, hopefully he's off to a good start. He's got a couple hits in the first few games and hit a home run. I was kind of liking that to Carter getting here and having some success early on. I think lends to, when he was here before, he struggled offensively. He played very well defensively for us. So hopefully the fact that he's gotten some hits out of the way, he can, kind of create a little momentum for himself. I know confidence-wise, it's always big when you get off to a good start.
Well, you've talked in the past about how you like having guys from the A's past come here, and you usually can kind of associate that with when we were growing up, the early 70s teams and maybe the late 80s teams.
Right.
Now you got the 10-year anniversary. It's not that long ago. How does that dynamic change for you and what you want the player to get out of it?
Well, it's all about the history of the organization, and this organization has great history. Whether it's the 70s, whether it's the 80s, whether it's in the 2000s, there's been a lot of playoff teams. So I think it's good whenever you can celebrate a team that accomplished something, and nobody else has accomplished a 20-game winning streak. So I think that's pretty amazing, and the fact that we are celebrating it, I think, is just good feeling for the organization. I think the fans enjoy it too, and I think the more we can do this type of thing, the better off we are.
Bob, what do you think about what is Carter doing now that he wasn't able to do when he had previous opportunities?
I think just the confidence end of it, where he finally feels like he belongs. He was another guy that got off to a good start when he was here, and based on the previous several times that he's been called up and never really got off to a good start, I think this time the fact that he hit a couple home runs early on, the ability's always been there. It's just about him kind of accepting himself at the big league level. And it seems like, for him at least, every classification there was a hurdle he had to get over that maybe took a little bit longer to some other guys. But I think he finally believes he's a big leaguer, and he's doing it here pretty consistently.
He also seems pretty more comfortable at first base.
I do, yeah. I mean, I think everybody kind of profiled him to be a DH, and we'll DH him some, but he looks more and more comfortable at first base than I've ever seen him. At times this spring he did too, so we were always encouraged that we wouldn't have to just bring him up here and DH him, that he could play first base as well, and he's done a pretty good job for us.
Nice play to end the game last night.
Indeed.
Speaking of the end of the game, I mean, ball fours look pretty good. The closer spot, you're going to stay with that for a while.
Yeah, I think it is right now. It's a pretty good fit. You know, we feel like we have some depth. I mean, you know, Doolittle comes in, probably doesn't have his best stuff yesterday. You know, looking at the velocities and so forth. Second day in a row that he was pitching, we haven't done that too much to him. But to be able to have a Blevins come in and behind him, I still have a Norberto that can pitch in any number of roles. We've got a Nishak, so we have some depth there. But I think the fact that you know, Balf's been pretty good here in the closing role the last couple times we haven't needed him to get us out of a jam, whether it's a 7th or 8th inning. I think at this